Tragic events in Phoenix, Arizona recently with the killing of a state trooper, the wounding of two others. One was shot, the other was injured in the fight. And joining me now is Angela Harrolle from the 100 Club. And when something like this happens, you go into action. And does that help you in a situation to do something, or is it harder because you have to grieve and do something?
Well, it's definitely a combination, but I would just say right away, as soon as we get the news, it's all hands on deck. We stop everything that we do on a normal day-to-day basis, and we focus all of our efforts on this family. And we also support the injured as well at the same time, so we have to kind of juggle through that. But there is definitely some grieving that happens at the same time because, you know, here I happen to be a DPS family survivor. So when it happens to a DPS member versus another agency, it does strike a little closer to home because you have those memories of silver tan, you know, standing everywhere and those smoky hats. And yeah, it's tough, but you've got to do it because you have an opportunity to potentially be a point of hope or inspiration to their surviving family members.
I was asked to attend a military funeral for a young man that was in the Army, and it was the first one I had attended since my brother's. And there was the time when I was there realizing that I knew what was coming next that the family didn't. Do you go through those motions of realizing that as difficult as today is, there's something tomorrow or something the next day? Is that part of the process for you too? Without
question. And it started sooner than I ever imagined. I had the opportunity to present the line of duty death benefit check to the family, and as I was there, I was getting ready to finish up, and in walks the entire DPS crew that is going to assist with this family planning. And I remember them coming to my house every morning at 9 a.m. for that same meeting, and I just thought, here you go. But I hope you know you're in good hands, and they will guide you through, they will get you through this. And then fast forward, we're at the candlelight vigil, and we are in this bowl near the fallen law enforcement officer memorial. And I thought to myself, you're actually here early and you don't know that. Because normally you don't get to that place to see that fallen officer memorial until May of the following year. And they were there early.
And they'll be back there again in May, and remembering the candlelight vigil.
Yeah.
And by the way, that was, I think, a silver lining in what has been nothing but tragedy since this happened, because the outpouring of that community, and there was well over 1,000 people there. As you know, because you were one of the speakers, the weather was not cooperating. The wind was terrible. It blew down the lights when the governor was speaking. But no one, I looked around, there wasn't a soul that was going to leave. I got there early, very early, and was talking with Cameron Lee, the PIO from DPS, and a woman walked up, just out of nowhere, just walked up to him, and she was crying before she got there. And she hugged Cameron, and you know Cameron, and hugged Cameron and said, be safe, we've been to far too many of these. And she was crying, and I thought, that's the attitude of the community now, which I thought was the bright spot, was we love and respect what these men and women do, and we're showing that instead of what we're seeing on camera all the time, which is disdain and suspicion.
Right, without question. And I had a similar experience. So there were lots of hugs, but more so I had a woman who had a handful of coins, and said, I know that if I give this to you, if I give this to the 100 Club, that it will go to a good cause. It will help this family. It will help the troopers that were injured. And the community, she kept saying, the community's behind you, we're behind you, and I believe that.
Do you, maybe this is too personal of a question, but when you interact with a family, the fallen, we'll talk about the injured in a moment, do you know ahead of time, or do you figure out what you're going to say so you have something to say, or is it more spur of the moment when you meet them?
Well, best laid plans. I usually walk in and then all of a sudden you become speechless.
Right.
It's like putting yourself up on stage and having no plan, but you've got people looking at you and you never know what their reaction's going to be. And when I saw them, they both just looked at me and said, I can't believe I'm seeing you. And I said, what do you mean? Well, we remember meeting you at graduation on May 4th. And I promised then to always be there. So I told them that day when I unfortunately met them after the loss of their fiance and also son, because I was working with Mom and Kaylee, I said, that is our promise. We're not going away. And in the event that something does go badly, we are here to stay. And you're now part of our family, like it or not. You're here to stay.
When you interact with the families of the injured, how are you received when they find out that you're also there as an emotional and a financial support for them?
Well, they're always overwhelmed, and the environment in law enforcement and fire service is they're very prideful. They don't want help, they don't need help. And so when you show up to provide assistance, financial assistance to them, they're like, oh, well, I don't really, it doesn't matter. It's not a need. This is in honor of their service. This is to help them not have to worry about financial concerns so that when they move forward, they can focus on healing and recovery. But when they, for example, with DPS, it's beautiful because I can walk in and I often know these troopers and they're like, you know what? If she can do this, we'll get through this, and we know that the 100 Club is there to support us. We also have an ever-expanding DPS family that's there to support us, and we're all going to work through it together.
I want to talk about the 100 Club. We're going to talk about what Angela Harrolle and the 100 Club of Arizona does right here around the state, and it's always when tragedy strikes or when injury strikes. So we're going to learn more about them here in just a moment. Stick around. Angela Harrolle is with me from the 100 Club, and we're talking about this tragic death, this senseless death of Trooper Tyler Edenhofer. But in light of this, it's an example of what the 100 Club does, which is why I've been supportive for a long time. And I think when I realized after the Yarnell Hill fire, when we had talked about the number of checks you had written in one day, yes. I don't know that people understand the width of what you do, how comprehensive the help the 100 Club gives is. Can you kind of give us an overview of what you do?
So obviously, in the event of a line of duty death, we are quick to respond with not only hopefully emotional support, but also financial assistance, whether they need it or not. It's just to say thank you for their service. So we provide an initial financial benefit there, but we also support those troopers, for example, that were injured just recently as well, and we will support them through their recovery up to $18,000. So those are the two major death benefit options, or I'm sorry, death and then also injury benefit that we offer. But we also have non-line of duty death benefits. We help in any type of life-altering situations that may happen to a public safety family. We provide scholarships to their children. We try to buy equipment that enhances their safety, because our goal is to be more proactive than reactive. We're known for our reactive component, but we really want to be proactive, obviously, to reduce that and to leave a good footprint in this community.
For the first responders, one of the elements that you have that I think is great is that you're a safe place for the emotional support they might need, and it's private. It's
yes.
something that they can go to and know they're safe, but privately deal with any kind. This has got to be traumatic for anyone associated with it.
Well, I can't imagine the troopers that were involved, the line of duty injury component. There's the physical injury, but then there's the emotional impact that this situation had on somebody. So they can also take advantage of our Bulletproof program. It's bulletproof.org, and that's an online mental health and wellness initiative that allows not only them, but their family members to become involved and to get the help and maybe answer a few questions in their times of struggle.
Because you're right, what makes them great at what they do is the self-reliance and I'm okay factor of who they are. I'm always okay. But if the need is there for them to have a safe place to go, that's the thing more than anything. Who can I trust? And something like that that's so trustworthy has got to be a huge benefit. We talk about the military and PTSD, but the men and women in law enforcement, first responders in general, they are dealing with, they can't unsee it, they can't unhear it, and they live with it, and then they bring it home, and their families sometimes don't understand.
Yeah, without a doubt. You said can't unsee, can't unhear. That's one of my favorite things, because we do ask them to do the unthinkable. We ask them to go into backyards and pull toddlers from pools. We ask them to pick up dismembered people after car accidents. And I don't know about you, but I wouldn't be able to go home and sleep for one night, maybe not even a month.
Right.
But and then you also have to have your family support. So it really does take the whole family. It takes the entire organization to kind of get behind somebody to make sure they have the resources they need to heal and move forward.
All right, one more personal question, because you learned of the 100 Club in the most tragic of ways when you were a survivor. Your journey from survivor to where you are now as president of the organization, what's that journey been like?
Well, I knew early on when the former executive director came to my door and handed me this check that I wanted to do something to try to make a difference and give back. And it wasn't the money. I mean, the money is incredibly helpful, don't get me wrong, but it was the fact that somebody was sitting across from me that had walked in my shoes, and it was it gave me hope. And that part was really, really intriguing. So fast forward through that time, my trust with this organization has just grown and grown. I know we do all good things, and we will try and help in whatever capacity we can. So when I had the honor and privilege to be appointed to this position, I never looked back, and I hope they'll keep me for a little while.
Well, you do such a good job of representing them, and I think because we know each other, the realization for me that you're coming from a perspective most people don't have or don't want to have. But that perspective, I think, is what makes you so good at the job, because you see the necessity for the organization financially. But like you said, it's the emotional support of what they don't know is happening next that you can be there for.
Without a doubt. And it's not just my role. So I happen to be a surviving spouse, but we have other individuals that help in our office every day. We have a mom that is the mother of a Yarnell 19 firefighter who was killed. We have a scholarship recipient. We have the wife of another firefighter and police officer in our office right now. So it is really a place that we work because we have a passion for what we do, not just for a paycheck. It is about the passion for the job and giving back.
Well, I would, at times like this, make people more mindful. And so I'm going to encourage everyone, I think, if you want to donate to an organization that is definitely worthwhile, one that's going to help, and you really squeeze every penny out of every dollar,
We do.
and it is a labor of love for the organization. You take it as a calling, I would say.
Without a doubt.
The 100 Club, Angela is such a great example of the 100 Club, but she is one example of what they do and the great work they're doing here. So if the need arises, you know there's an organization that is going to fulfill that need very, very well. Your ability to help, website, anything you can do, money, talent, and time is what we have to offer this world. Your opportunity to help the 100 Club so they can continue to help. And I can't thank you enough.
Yeah, my pleasure.
We'll be back.